good evening, everyone. Let me just first introduce about BRSR series. So, since last 4 months, we are, we have started with this BRSR series. We started from very basic genesis of BRSR. Then we discussed upon Sustainable Development Goals, NGRBC 9 principles, BRSR report, and now today we are focusing on the reasonable assurance, which is mandatory. So we will be starting today with that, and I'm welcoming all panelists for today's session. We are looking forward for the insights and experience and expertise coming from you. So let me just start with the introduction of the panelist. Yeah. So today we have as a panelist Mr. Puneet Bansal, who is a group head governance at Adani Group, and Sudhakar sir, who is there with us and chief consultant of Mehta Mehta, and sir is there in all the webinars we are doing. Let me start with introducing Puneet sir first. Mr. Puneet is a seasoned lawyer and a company secretary with 3 decades of experiences in the area of corporate governance, mergers, acquisition, organizational restructuring, and risk management. He is also passionate about ESG and competition law. As the group head governance for Adani Group, one of the largest conglomerate in India, Mr. Puneet oversees the governance function of over a dozen listed companies across manufacturing and service sectors. Prior to Adani Group, Mr. Puneet was the general counsel of Pidilite Industries, where he provided proactive and strategic legal and governance guidance to Pidilite business globally. Prior to that, he spent 12 years with Aditya Birla Group, holding various positions in secretarial, legal, and compliance roles, culminating as General Counsel of Grasim Industries. Mr. Puneet has a diverse background, having worked in sectors ranging from telecom and information technology to financial services and manufacturing. Throughout his career, he has managed complex domestic and cross-border M&A transactions and high-stakes litigations or arbitrations. His significant contributions to corporate governance have earned recognition for many organizations he has worked with. Puneet sir's inspirational quote is, "Every day comes with a new experience. You learn from it and leverage it in future. This is how you will continuously grow and remain meaningful." So we welcome you, Puneet sir, for today's webinar.
Thank you, Dolly. Thank you.
Welcome you, sir.
For actually giving me this an opportunity to kind of share my thoughts on a very interesting topic and topic of relevance for corporate governance professionals like us. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your presence today. Talking about Sudhakar sir, as we know, he is there in our all the webinars. He doesn't need any introduction, but still I would like to, give an introduction. One of the prominent personalities associated as a chief consultant with our firm. He is a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, also a member of Institute of Company Secretaries of India, Secretary of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries at Administrators UK. He also has worked as a vice president of the corporate secretarial department of Reliance Industries Limited for 17 years. So, sir, thank you again for your presence. And talking about myself, I look after the CSR and BRSR practice at Mehta Mehta. Yeah, that's it. And we can, start with your experience for this particular topic before jumping to the presentation. Yeah, thank you.
Atul Bhai is also there. He's the founder partner of this stuff.
Yeah. So
I forgot.
Atul sir is actually it's not required any introduction. So the founding partner of Mehta Mehta. And sir, you can take it further.
Past president of ICSI also.
Yes, in year 2015, sir was the past president of ICSI, and sir is leading Mehta Mehta. Yeah.
And I can't forget Atul Bhai because courtesy secretarial standards given by him only. that
Yeah, it
one
was
and
around
two.
2015. Yeah.
Correct.
So we welcome you, sir, Puneet Bhai. This webinars, series, we are doing it for
Yeah.
almost more than 2 years now. It is more of a knowledge sharing. And after Mr. Sudhakar has joined Mehta Mehta, this, the discussion has gone to a next level. So we welcome you once again. It's more of a knowledge sharing and sharing your practical, experience, to the public. So yeah, Sudhakar,
You are
few
doing
words.
a
Yeah.
wonderful job, Atul Bhai. I think knowledge sharing is the best way to learn. I strongly believe because a lot of people are deep dived into the kind of academic things
Yeah.
and they lack the practical nuances. So I think we learn, as I said, that okay, we learn every day, and it's best way to share.
Yeah.
So thanks for initiating this kind of initiative for
Yeah.
professionals.
Yeah, Sudhakar ji, some few words.
I think that because Puneet Bhai say a few words first, okay, because he is the person who is having hands-on experience. And Puneet, why can't you kindly take the introductory note?
Okay. So I guess how many participants do we have? It will be a mix of CS.
Almost 7. So people are joining, yeah.
Okay. So I guess, Dolly, I would say that, okay, if you set the context by giving 2 or 3 slides on BRSR Core, and then I can take it forward with my practical thing, because I think first of all, people need to understand the difference between BRSR and the BRSR Core. So that is very essential because it is a subtle change, not applicable to all the entities as of now. So just give a regulatory perspective, and then we can deep dive into the thing.
Sure. Okay. So talking about today's topic, we will be focusing on BRSR Core, Reasonable Assurance or Assessment, which is mandatory for top 250 companies. So just to understand and just reflect back over the BRSR history. So in India, the requirement to submit business responsibility report marked the beginning of the reporting on the non-financial parameters. So initially, it started with the business responsibility report, and it was the initiative which was taken as a response to India's dedication towards the United Nations Business and Human Rights Guiding Principles and Sustainable Development Goals. Further, at present, the top 1,000 listed companies are mandatorily required to report on their BRSR as a part of their annual report. And also, this report goes to the stock exchanges where the companies are listed. Other companies can furnish their BRSR voluntarily. So this forms the part of the LODR regulations, and the new format for the BRSR is based on the 9 principles of National Guidelines on Responsible Business Conduct, that is NGRBC. As we know that this BRSR format is divided into 3 parts. Section A talks about the general disclosures. So this disclosures should be in aligned with the companies are giving the disclosures in forms MGT 7. Talking about section B, which are management and process disclosures, which covers the structures, policies, and processes relating to this NGRBC principles concerning governance, leadership, and stakeholders engagement. Again, in case the business entity choose not to adopt any principle or policy, then they have to state the reasons for the same in the report. And talking about the section C, which is very extensive in this report, it talks about the 9 principles of NGRBC. Company has to report in this particular section in a way to reflect their commitments to responsible business through their action and result. These questions are again divided into 2 parts. mandatory and voluntary. So there are essential indicators which are mandatory to report, and there are leadership indicators which is voluntary for a company to report on.
Actually, just I want to add it further here, Dolly, just go back to the previous slide. So here with the last webinar, we have discussed this exhaustively about this BRSR reporting, both essential indicators as well as the leadership indicators. And quite exhaustively, we have discussed that. And this BRSR reporting, as Dolly has mentioned, it is mandatory for top 1,000 listed companies as per market cap. And BRSR Core is an offshoot of BRSR, which was to be mandatory for the year financial year 24-25 for the top 250 listed companies, but it has been extended by one more year. So this year also it is a more or less voluntary only. But I've been told that Adani Group has already taken this initiative, which Puneet will explain it very great in detail. This BRSR reporting, in fact, when we were discussing in the last webinar, I have stressed the point that in several companies, there might be separate departments for which is looking after the CSR and ESG and other things. And some companies have also outsourced the preparation of the BRSR reporting. So the compliance officers should never relax that somebody else will take care of this, because he is the compliance officer and BRSR reporting is mandatory as per the listing regulations that Dolly has mentioned, that clause 34, basically, I think regulation 34.
Yeah.
So it is the compliance officer whose responsibility is to take the ownership of that particular document. Any kind of questions comes from regulatory authorities or any stakeholder of the company, it is the compliance officer who is responsible for that. Hence, it is for all the company secretaries who are the compliance officers who are participating in this webinar, my request to all of you is the future is going to be in ESG and BRSR only. This is a niche area, more of technical in nature. We need to understand this and has to get the expertise of that thing. That is the primary intention of Mehta and Mehta also to start this webinar series, so that we will discuss it on a fortnightly or monthly basis. We'll pick up a topic and then discuss it at great length. Yes, Dolly, please go ahead.
Yeah. So, as we know that to top 1,000 companies on their market cap basis, BRSR is applicable. As our agenda for today is to understand on BRSR Core. So let's understand the applicability of the assurance or assessment. So on 12th July 2023, SEBI came up with a circular. As per that circular, listed entities shall mandatorily undertake reasonable assurance of BRSR Core as under for financial year 23-24, it was applicable to top 150 listed entities. For financial year 24-25, it was applicable to top 250 listed entities. And onwards for 25-26, it will be applicable to top 500 listed entities. Again, company can opt for the limited assurance, which is voluntary in nature. So basically, limited assurance will be over and above the 9 KPIs of the BRSR Core for reasonable assurance. So now, as we just understood that assurance is applicable, then let's understood that who are the expertise who can provide the assurance. So SEBI has again given the framework to evaluate an assurance provider. Assurance providers should be having the expertise. So the board of the listed entity should ensure that the assurance provider of the BRSR Core has the necessary expertise for undertaking reasonable assurance. Again, that assurance providers should be having independence, that is no conflict of interest with the assurance provider and listed entities. For instance, it should be ensured that the assurance provider or any of its associates do not sell its products or provide any non-audit or non-assurance related services, including consultancy services to the listed entity or its group entities. So these are the criteria to evaluate the assurance provider. Moving onwards, there must be a question coming in how to provide the assurance. So SEBI has again given the standards. So in the FAQs issued by SEBI in the year 2023 as well as in the year 2025, they have given the answer for that. As Master Circular does not mandate or recommend the use of any specific assurance standard, the assurance provider may appropriately use a globally accepted assurance standard on sustainability or non-financial reporting, such as International Standard on Assurance Engagement, ISAE 3000, or assurance standards issued by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, such as Standard on Sustainability Assurance Engagement, SSAE 3000, or Standard on Assurance Engagement, SAE 3410, assurance engagements on greenhouse gas statement. Further disclosure should be made of the assurance standard that is used in the report. With regard to the assessment of BRSR Core, the third-party assessment shall be undertaken as per the standards developed by the Industry Standard Forum in consultation with the SEBI. So this assessment SEBI has introduced in the month of December 2024, just to give the ease of doing the business to the companies instead of assurance. Yeah, so now as we have gone through that, this assurance should be provided on BRSR Core. So what is BRSR Core? So basically BRSR Core is a subset of BRSR. So in BRSR, as we know, there are many key parameters. So out of all that key parameters, SEBI has chosen 9 key parameters on which assurance should be provided. BRSR Core framework specifies the methodology to facilitate reporting by corporates and requirement for assurance of reported data. SEBI has also provided the format, for the data and assurance approach for this 9 KPIs, which is divided on ESG factors. So as we can see, on the greenhouse gas footprint, water footprint, energy footprint, waste management, that all forms the part under the ESG factor of the environment data. When we talk about the employee well-being and safety, gender diversity, enabling inclusive development, that forms the part of social factor of the ESG. And when we talk about the fairness in engaging with customers and suppliers, openness of business, that is governance part of the ESG. So these are the 9 key parameters for the BRSR Core. And again, SEBI has given very much detailed parameters and assurance approach, mentioning the which principle it is a part of the BRSR report. Yeah. So Puneet sir, would you like to, say something?
Thanks, I think, Dolly. So let's stick to this, unless you want to close down the presentation and you can have a larger view. But this is the main subset of BRSR, as we said, and I can share a few examples from Adani as to how we have adopted the transition from BRSR to BRSR Core, and what kind of assurance we are doing, what is the process of assurance that is carried out, what is the rigor, what are the repercussions if things are not reported correctly. So there are many angles to the reporting strategy. So to the audience, I think let's be very clear in understanding that why BRSR, first of all. Okay, BRSR is a necessity going forward because earlier people or corporates were primarily reporting the financial sections, okay, and corporates were judged by their profitability generally in terms of valuation. However, for last few years, the shift has happened, and the whole origination was from the sustainability aspect, that how to reduce carbon footprint across the world and how to ensure that we have clean environment. And obviously, since the industries were the primarily constituents of, say, pollution, so-called pollution, the focus was always on them as to how do they adopt this and how do they contribute in making the environment clean. Okay, and so that it all started with sustainability as the core. And there are many standards globally which are adopted by various countries. Till today, there are no standards, so to call as ESG standards, as we have accounting standards in the world. There are, unfortunately, still that is something which is under development stages. But I think we should compliment our government to actually come out with a BRSR, which started with BRR, now BRSR. So what they have done is that they have actually put forth a comprehensive document, a very illustrative document to go into the 9 principles on various topics, and they have categorized that very beautifully to say as to what should go into each thing, and making it very user friendly for the first time reader also to understand how a business is performing on a non-financial perspective. The non-financial perspective now is gaining a huge traction across the world. The companies are actually assessed by their growing awareness about the ESG norms. Okay, gone are the days where the companies were valued on the basis of their financials. Now, even if you have a very strong financials with you, but you are not taking adequate steps to actually adopt ESG in your day-to-day practice, your valuation can be deeply impacted. Okay, and it's not that you have to go ahead with some prescribed thing. Okay, you have basic standards which are in the form of BRSR that gives you a broad guideline as to what should be reported and what should be done. But these are the minimum things. Okay, there is no end to it. You can actually go and see what the others are doing. And there are international agencies which are present, which actually go through each and every aspect of your reporting, and they allocate a rating to you, which is a non-solicited rating. Okay, so you don't call for that rating. They will go by your public disclosures. They will go by your website disclosures. They will go by your media disclosures. And they would rate you on the basis of your ESG practices. So what I'm saying is that while we have BRSR Core, but this is just the starting point, so to say. I truly believe that this is not something which is a tick off the box approach. Okay. This is something which is highly qualitative in nature, where there is a huge opportunity to increase on each and every aspect of the ESG. And there are huge benefits arising out of it. Okay. Earlier, people thought that, okay, we are just investing in cleaning the pollution. What is the benefit for us? But you will actually see that the benefits are humongous. Okay, if you invest, say, a few crores, the return on that would be multiplied by many times, because now the investors are looking for the companies who are adopting very transparent, and they are disclosing the ESG aspects on a very transparent basis. Now, coming to the session today, I guess when we talk about BRSR, the first and the foremost aspect that we have to look into is how do we define our boundary? Okay, so it is, you can report standalone basis. Okay, you can report consolidated basis. You can identify few verticals which you feel are relevant for BRSR or the investors outside. That choice is available with you. So my first and foremost input would be that please don't get overboard by saying that, okay, I have the reporting boundary on a consolidated basis. People just tend to say that, okay, I cover all my subsidiaries into BRSR. But actually, whether it is possible, the answer is a huge question mark. So please select the verticals, the subsidiaries very, very judiciously, so that when assurance partner comes, okay, you can show the data to him that yes, we have adopted each and every aspect, and you can get that validated. Because that is the first, I think, roadblock that we have to pass through. And a lot of people do that sort of a mistake where they increase their boundaries without actually deploying the principles across their various subsidiaries. So I think my first point would be that please be very, very judicious in reporting or selecting the boundary in which you need to report the BRSR, because the repercussions are pretty high. Okay, now first of all, you have to collate the data. That collation itself is a huge task. Then you have to get it assured. Assured is like an audit which is to be done. Then that assurance or report has to be printed. And if there is any mistake in that, okay, that the responsibility, since it's a statutory report, the responsibility go directly to the directors. So we have to be very careful that, okay, we don't adopt something which is so to call, as we call it, greenwashing in loose terms, that, okay, we do not report something just for the sake of reporting. We have to report rightly. We have to report honestly, transparently, and please do not report anything which is non, you can say, you can't actually test it out. Because there are cases, thankfully not in India today, but overseas, there are many cases where wrong reporting of ESG parameters have actually been taken to court, and there are huge penalties levied on the company. So please be very, very careful while selecting the reporting boundary. That is the first aspect. Now, coming to selection of the assurance partner. Now, you have to be clear as to what is assurance. While the word assurance may sound a little relaxed in terms of audit, but I must say that it is no less than an audit. Okay, it is as good as an audit to be conducted by a statutory auditor. Here we have seen that, okay, companies find their own limited ways or innovative ways to say that, okay, assurance can be two-part. It could be a limited assurance. It could be a reasonable assurance. So wherever they find it difficult to report, they will go for a limited assurance. I'll come to the difference between limited and reasonable assurance also. But I think selection of that assurance partner is very, very critical. Just as we select statutory auditors of a repute, please go for a reputed assurance partner, because that adds again a lot of value. It's not that anybody is just giving an insurance report and it gets no credentials for it. So the whole exercise has to be taken seriously, and selection, as Dolly said in earlier slides, selection process has to be done properly. There should not be any conflict of interest. Okay, it should not happen that you are appointing an assurance and parallelly you are also giving them consultancy assignments. Okay, that actually defeats the whole purpose of independent assurance exercise. Now, see, as Sudhakar ji said, conveniently, a lot of company secretaries say that, okay, this is not my cup of tea. I will focus only on the governance pillar, which is only in 1 or 2 principles of BRSR. Rest of the things are actually to be done by HR. They have to be done by environment guys, operations guys. I have done my job by contributing a list of subsidiaries. Okay, what is my director's statement? Okay, what is the training done to the directors? And so limited aspects which are more on the governance side. I think very rightly said by Sudhakar ji that, okay, this is just saying that, okay, I am closing my eyes and there is no lion standing in front of me. It is a statutory report and you are the compliance officer. So you have to take the ownership. At the end of the day, if anything goes wrong, you will be the first person to be called as to what is the, because ultimately basis your assurance, the board is actually adopting this and reporting into the annual report. Even if the domain are outside your perspective, please have a tight watch in terms of what is getting reported. Okay, please do not do a cut paste job. Please do not take inputs and just capture in the report. Have some mechanism to verify it. Read what others are reporting in peer groups, in larger reputed organization, how the report can be improved in terms of narratives. Because numbers you can't change, obviously. But narrative wise, whether it is a vague narration, whether it is a specific narration, so a lot of value addition can come from you as a professional. You, when I say you, is company secretaries. That you, since we are having a depth in basically drafting, okay, so drafting plays a very, very important role in keeping BRSR concise, clear, easy to understand, and be very, very specific. Don't let any vague terms getting into the BRSR, because that is something which is easily understandable by a knowledgeable person, that, okay, either you are saying with transparency or you are just siphoning off kind of a question which are there. So take ownership is something which is very, very essential. Now, as I touched base that, okay, how should one go about the assurance thing? So experience wise, since Adani is a very large organization, what we have done, and we have I think 9 integrated reports that we are publishing, and we publish all reports around same day. Within 1 or 2 days all the reports goes out, because our AGMs are pre-scheduled. So what we do is that we do just like an audit, 9-month hard closure and a 3-month updation. So that is how we have structured, and that's how we have been managing the collation of BRSR and so that how it helps is that in 9 months exercise, which we undertake somewhere in the month of Jan, and by mid of Feb, we try and complete it. That tells us as to where are we standing on each and every aspect. We also ask our assurance partner to do a first level assurance for everything which is getting reported. Okay, and then tell us as to where are the weaknesses, where are the gaps that you see, so that we have time of next 3 months to fill it up. Okay, and that has helped us immensely in completing the whole exercise very, very smoothly. So you won't believe, by say 15th, by first week of May, we are actually done up with all our statutory reports. Okay, our board meetings are lined up first week of May, and we actually go back to the board with properly signed, assured BRSR reports. And that is not possible if you don't split the work. So these are the few tips, I think, tips or whatever we can say to do a collation exercise of BRSR. Now, when we say collation, it is a huge document. Now BRSR reports are running into 50 pages, 60 pages. They are actually becoming a huge document in itself. And a lot of data is required. A lot of correlation is required with, say, HR, with, say, operations. If it is a multi-site, imagine if you have 30, 40 plants across India or outside India, and you are capturing that in your boundary, then completing those entire exercise, because BRSR needs the assurance partner to go to the site. They can't actually sit in the office and complete the exercise. It's not possible. They have to go to the site, they have to complete the site visits, they have to collate the data, they have to fill the questionnaire, and then prepare a first cut report and share it. So it is a huge exercise, and unless it is planned in a proper manner, you are bound to miss the deadlines. So be very, very particular who has to do what are the templates, the templating itself, what information you want. So if you just send out the BRSR template to the relevant stakeholders, I'm damn sure that you will not be able to fetch the data in right perspective. So create your own templates. Like we have created our own templates for each principle. And we send only relevant requirements to the relevant people. That please give us only this information. Otherwise, if you just randomly send a question that, okay, I want training documents or training details, the plethora of information that will come to you is a problem. Okay. So be very, very specific what you want. Unless you specify that very clearly, I think you are inviting problems for yourself. You will be messed up in the huge data pile and unlikely to miss the deadline. So please be very careful what you want. I'm just giving you my experiences as to where do we falter. Okay, and in last 2-3 years, where we have focused and we are now working a smooth track. So I think a couple of things more before we can ask Sudhakar ji also to share his perspective. Is that, as I said, that the importance of BRSR disclosure is very, very important because I think sooner or later people will start actually taking this report to the court. Yeah. If they feel you have given wrong disclosures and due to that they have been induced to invest in the company, I think in India also you can see that sort of a litigation starting to happen. It has already started globally and trend would catch soon in India. So it's better for us to learn out of the mistakes others have done. Don't get overexcited to report something supernatural or give a target which is not achievable. Okay, be very clear what you want to do, how you want to do, and be a little conservative. I would say be a little bit conservative in whatever task or goals you are taking. Okay, because otherwise you will get overstated and you'll invite problem for us. Sudhakar ji, I'll take a pause here. I think if you can provide your thoughts.
Thanks, Puneet bhai. In fact, you have explained that in such a simple manner. Only 2-3 points I would like to add further to what you said. In fact, to a large extent, the big conglomerates like Adani, Reliance, and all, we adopt the same practice. Like, he said that 9 + 3 months, that in fact, when I was in Reliance, we used to have a formula of 9 + 2 + 1. That means the annual report of up to December, used to be ready by 31st of January. In fact, even the composing used to take place. Let me put it this way. Then, because we need to order the paper in those days, the tons and tons of paper we were to order. So then what happens is that January and February we used to do it. And after that, what we used to do is only for 1 month we are left with, only that 1 month we have to tackle. So for that, what we need to do is we have to work very, in coordination with all your colleagues. Say, for example, when business responsibility report has become mandatory, BRSR and BRSR core are extension of that BRR. But BRR, first time it has become mandated, you were to collate the same data, more or less the same principles used to be there, that 9 or 11 principles, whatever they are there. So what we did was the way Puneet Bhai has mentioned, that to the concerned people, we have sent the concerned questionnaire. And we requested them, by simply answering that questionnaire is not sufficient. You need to give us the backup documents also for that. In that time, audit was not there. Now, in the case of BRSR core, that assurance audit is there. When this assurance audit is there, the auditor also more or less doing this kind of audit for the first time. He is also learning on the job training kind of thing. So he is learning while he is doing the audit, he is learning from us only. So first of all, we have to get educated, and at the same point of time, we have to educate him also. Sometimes what happens is he might not be understanding the business. As Puneet Bhai has mentioned, that he got almost 10 to 12 listed entities are there under him. And he has to handle different auditors, or maybe 2-3 auditors, but different businesses. So it is his responsibility to take that auditor along with him, to handhold him, at least in the first year and second year. Thereafter, the auditor can operate on himself. So as a compliance officer, it is your responsibility to get the assurance audit completed by the assurance auditor. So your job is double fold. One side, you are the person who is doing it. Another side, you are the person who has to got it done. So you have your responsibility is on a two-way thing, So for that, what you have to do is you have to organize the training sessions, sensitize the people across the organization. In fact, several times what we used to do was, whenever we take any kind of study circles and all, when major regulatory changes used to come, and when we are doing our in-house accounts, finance, taxation, secretarial, all people, we are used to come together and discuss several issues. That point of time, we used to invite even the statutory auditors and secretarial auditors also to join us, so that they can give their viewpoint to us and we can give our viewpoint to them. Instead of arguing the matter at the time of your audit, you can do it in the beginning itself. That's what precisely Puneet Bhai also has mentioned, that by that 9 months data, give it to the auditor, by please go through that and then come back with your remarks, whatever they are there, so that we can sort it out before the end of the year only. And then finally, what I would like to also say is, I think more or less rest of the things he has said, sensitization of the importance of this particular document, that BRSR report as well as BRSR core. You have to also take the value chain partners along with you. That is another responsibility. I request Puneet Bhai to throw some light on the value chain partners also, how he had, because again, the same thing, you have to handhold. If there are value chain partners or size, medium size or large size, they themselves will do it. If they are small size value partner, then what happens is how to pick up them, then how to handhold them, that is also equally important. Before I ask Puneet Bhai to talk about that, one thing I would like to mention, that the institute level, there is a separate board is there for ESG and sustainability board is there. I am a member of that. And institute is coming with a guidance note on third-party assurance. In fact, I got the privilege of be the convener of the subcommittee, which is working upon this. And in the participants, if you have any kind of questions or anything, kindly send it to us. I will take it to the institute and ensure that those issues are properly addressed in the guidance note also. Yeah, Puneet Bhai, kindly about value chain partners.
Sir, just a second. Can I just finish our PPT on the BRSR?
1 minute. No, let that value chain partners thing,
Okay.
Dolly, that is more important. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I think, Sudhakar, the importance of value chain partner, which till today was kind of an optional thing. Okay, now it was more into the leadership indicators. Now, slowly, if you see, most of the corporates are now disclosing the leadership indicators also, and that is also getting assured. Going forward, the expectation is that you have to implement whatever you are doing at your end. That should be replicated, or your value chain partner should also be equally equipped with all the good practices. Now, considering the vast scope of value chain partners, see, first you have to set the house in order. Most of the corporates are yet to set the house in order. Forget about the value chain partners. Now, correct me if I am mistaken. I think value chain partner currently is a voluntary thing. Okay, next year it will be
Voluntary, correct. Even the BRSR core itself is also assurance audit is voluntary this year.
So yeah, so value chain partner actually we started last year very aggressively, considering that okay, from FY 24-25 it will become mandatory. So we started the practice, but somewhere in I think Feb or March, SEBI relaxed it, saying that okay, we are giving you one more year. So people just slept off again. But I think it is a humongous task. So I'm as I say, I'm still getting a goosebump as to how we will implement it. Today, if I were to say that okay, we have a huge vendor supply chain. Now you have to go to the customers on one side, you have to go to the supply chain on the second side. You have to go upstream, downstream, both way. Now, thankfully, they have said 75%. Okay, now most of the companies have large suppliers or customers to cover that. But if we were to implement in spirit, spirit means that you are dealing with a partner who does not contribute to scope 3 emissions. So that is the core of including value chain partners. That while you are doing all the right things, whether you are having your partners or you are shifting your bad work to your value chain partners. Okay, that's the sum and substance. I think what European or Western countries did 40-50 years back, that they shifted all their industries to east of the world and then make them polluted, that now they want to govern that, okay, please close down your polluting industries. I think the same concept the world wants to adopt, saying that, okay, we are expecting you, and okay, you as a large corporate have large pockets, you can set your house in order, but it should not happen that you are shifting your, you can say, pollution to the value chain partner. That okay, and hence they want them also to be governed. That please disclose transparently as to how your value chain partner, the scope 3, is actually polluting. Now, that's a very tricky affair in Indian context where we are having a focus on MSMEs. Okay, now MSME, if you go and talk ESG, okay, they will say that okay, boss, I am there to supply the goods. ESG, if you want, you do it. If you want me to do it, just tell me what to do. You invest the money here, but I don't have money to invest. And that's the typical story in India. And
in fact, Puneet bhai, just like it is, when you are a contractor, you have to take the responsibility for your subcontractors also.
Yes.
The same is the case here. What they say is, when you are the person to whom BRSR and BRSR Core are applicable, you have to take care of your value chain partners also. They are also not supposed to pollute whatever you are not supposed to do. They are also not supposed to do. That is the crux of the whole thing.
Correct. But Sudhakar, I think what I feel, and it requires a huge mindset change. Okay, now earlier it was HR and operations. Now it is procurement. And now procurement, suddenly you can't expect them to change the practices. Yeah. Now they are not geared, to be very honest. supply, and I will go back to the MSME issue. In India, largely the supply chain is MSME. Okay, now
True.
see the dichotomy. Okay, as a social requirement, we are expected to give business, or we are expected to promote small vendors, local vendors. Okay, at around the plant site, we have to actually have an inclusive economy where everybody gets benefited out of it. And on one side, you have to say that, okay, you have to actually ask them not to pollute. Now, there, I think the whole circle has to see, and I'll be very surprised if this happens in a quick time. It requires a sea change of thought processes. The process has to be imbibed by the MSME. I would say that corporates will be required, and that's what my feeling is, that obviously at the lower level, vendors will not have capability to invest into such activities. Okay, so as a corporate, if you want your score to be better, if you want benefit to accrue to you, you have to actually invest, go back into the value chain partners, and ask them to not pollute.
See, the good thing what happened is that earlier they said that 75% of the value chain partners are to be covered.
Yes.
Whereas in the recent circular, they have clarified that you have to pick up the value chain partners who are 2% of your turnover plus. That
Yes.
means you don't need to pick up the small people that who
Yes.
are contributing about 2% plus of your consolidated turnover. And I think if I'm not wrong, it is the consolidated word is there. I'm not very sure of that,
Yeah.
whether it is standalone or consolidated. At the same point of time, we have to also ensure that 75% of the value chain partners are to be
Correct.
covered also.
It's 2%, 75%. But what I'm saying is that, see, largely most of the corporate, then it will be an ecosystem of say 10, 12 vendors or 10, 12 customers.
Yeah.
But if you have to address the issue, okay, in a
Correct.
longer sense, then you have to go back and actually imbibe the practices in the small vendors also. So though they contribute say 70, only say 25%, but unless you focus on them, your value chain partner will not come to the level that you want them to do. Okay, so I think in future we may expect that corporates, the selection process itself becomes stringent first of all. Okay, because unless you select the right partners, you will not be able to devote or walk through with them. So selection itself will become more stringent, and that will force the value chain partners to set up their house in order if they want to deal with large corporates. Okay, so it is a ripple effect. Okay, so unless you stop recruiting right set of partners, they will not fall in line, and they will fall in line if you show an inclination that you are ready to invest in them. So it is
It
a
is chicken and the egg story. It is.
Yeah, a chicken and egg story, but yes, it has to be done. So there is no reason, or there is no way we can avoid it. Yeah, so, and then I think next 2 years would be interesting to see as to how do we take these value chain partners with us, and then ensure that the whole scope 1, 2, 3 are becoming more and more clearer going forward. So I think inevitable, but yeah, tough.
Yeah, Dolly, you can now make your remaining presentation also.
Yeah. So this year, SEBI has given the relaxation for the value chain partners disclosures for the companies. So for 25-26, again, it's voluntary basis, company can disclose on that. And for financial year 26-27, to get the assurance on value chain partners or not, again, it's up to company. So again, it's a voluntary to, so that Indian companies can get a habit and, as you mentioned. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. So we'll just come to our BRSR core, where we were having initial discussion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you to both the panelists to give the much detailed overview about the BRSR core as well as supply chain, and also practical challenges and the preparedness at the part of the company secretary of the company. Thank you for that. So talking about the BRSR core attributes, so these are 9 key parameters which is company has to report on their BRSR. And from that reporting only, the assurance partner will be asking the company to provide the supportive documents for the data they have mentioned in the BRSR report. Because there are many companies for whom this year will be a first year of applicability for the BRSR assurance. So many times they get confused with especially the environment related data, how to collect that, how to calculate the purchase power parity, and how to report on that. So that is, I think we have already discussed. Moving onwards, in 2024, SEBI has come up with a circular. They held the board meeting in December where they had
Sorry,
decided.
say this kind of developments, the circulars and all that everyone knows it. Okay, so go to the core of the things and okay, where exactly it is the one, because the circulars and all we all know that. Okay,
See,
that ISF has
I
come
would,
and all.
I would like to also emphasize on assurance part. Okay, there are 2 kind of assurances which are prevailing, and one is a limited assurance, one is a reasonable assurance.
Correct.
Okay, now, so I have seen many reports, okay, where the assurance partner actually has a mix of reporting. So certain parameters, they say that it is a limited assurance. Certain parameters, it is a reasonable assurance. So it is very interesting to read the assurance report. And then typically it tells you how well the organization is prepared. So where the organization is offering for a limited assurance. Now, typically, what is the difference? I would say that largely in a limited assurance, it is a sample-based assurance where the assurance partner will take some, say, 25-30% data as a sample. Okay, they will not go much beyond it, and they will rely on what you have furnished. Okay, they will test what are the documents behind it, and they will do the assurance. It's a quick assurance which will be completed in a quick time frame. It may not give you any red flags, so to say, because limited assurance, they are just believing on your words. What you are saying, supported by a relevant document, they will not go much beyond it. A reasonable assurance is a higher standard, okay, where the sample size is bigger. They will go and back into the process of collation of data. Okay, and that will give you an improvement possibility. If you show them, so okay, my say water consumption is 100, and you show the data, they will say that okay, how it is 100? Okay, what are the various collation? What are the processes? How do you consume? Whether it is possible to consume less, things like that. So they will go into the processes and give you an improvement area. So I think once you mature, the ideal world is to get a reasonable assurance. So don't get satisfied by limited assurances. My submission to all the professionals here is that okay, while it could tick the box that I have done the assurance, it will not value add in a longer term. So please go for a reasonable assurance. Government is actually relaxing and making it assessment, and we have to see how the industry would come out for a ease of doing business. But I think we'll have to be still seeing what will come on the table in terms of assessment. But I would say it will be much lower standard, so to say, from assurance. So assessment, it give you just okay a certain comfort. Assurance is a better comfort, and reasonable assurance gives you a better in the sense that it gives you a satisfaction as to what you are doing is right. Plus the reader, okay, the investors have a larger confidence in you. So I just wanted to kind of touch base on these two very important aspects of limited assurance and the reasonable assurance, so to say. The other thing I think which I have noticed, okay, and is that now people are preparing integrated reports. Okay, now BRSR is one part. There is a huge ESG section which is also there, okay, and there are blatant mismatches in reports. BRSR is saying something else. It is not matching with the ESG section. Now, see, because the ownership is different at the end of the day. BRSR is a collation of information. Owner is somebody else. ESG, the owners are people differently. And somehow that matching, you don't get the time to match. In today's world, when you have to deliver very fast, you focus on your segment and assume that, okay, somebody will read it and match the data. And I've seen grave errors happening in that. So I think as a submission to everybody, just have a cursory glance over key data. Okay. It might be time consuming, it might not be your responsibility, but I think as a professional, annual report belongs to the CS community at the end of the day. So please go through, even if you're not able to find a mismatch, please go through. It will add to your value understanding as to what are the essential parts. And you can correlate. Actually, you can reduce the size by providing hyperlinks to the cross references. That is allowed by the government and BRSR. That you can provide cross linkages to your sustainability report or ESG reports rather than repeating whole sections. And please provide cross references. So you are actually simplifying the readership also. So these are a few practical things which I have noticed, which I thought that, okay, I'll share so that people kind of have guided.
In fact, Puneet, there is one question in the chat box that can you provide clarity on which standard will be followed by organizations, selecting assessment option versus assurance, and what statements they shall be getting out of that activity? Means outcome of assurance is an opinion statement, but what should be the outcome of assessment?
So I think industry forum is yet to come out with, so that task has been given by SEBI to the industry forum.
Correct.
Now we have to see what assessment would look like, what kind of a reporting it will look like. We are yet not aware as to what will be the outcome. Assurance report is typically printed with the annual report. So if you open any annual report, you can go through the assurance report. And there you will see that, okay, whether it is a reasonable assurance, whether all principles are covered in the reasonable assurance or some are covered, whether they are covering 9 attributes also into the reasonable assurance, whether they are focusing on the essential component or they are focusing on the leadership component. So there are many parameters to it. So it's an interesting document. People should go through it very, very carefully as to see as to what a third party is giving assurance on. It's not a simple document that, okay, I assure every data. It actually goes principle wise, question wise, what is reasonably assured or not assured there. And you may find that, okay, certain important aspects are actually not assured or assured in a limited manner. So that shows improvement areas.
Yeah, Dolly, go ahead.
Yeah, so should we take up some FAQs it is given by SEBI just for the understanding of the participants?
You don't need to read the whole thing, just give the gist of that.
Okay. So for conflict of interest, we have already seen. And then another question can come up that what can be the activities can be undertaken by the assurance provider for the BRSR core. So if you are providing the assurance, then you can take up the activities like which is in nature of audit or assurance. That kind of activities can be taken by the assurance provider, like tax audit, system audit, tax filing can be undertaken. And the activity related to risk management, any kind of consultancy, project management, investing advisory should not be taken up by the assurance provider. So it
So
is clearly
primarily what you say in this slide, Dolly, is that whenever you are appointing an assurance provider, what is the responsibility of the listed entity is, number one, they should ensure that the assurance provider has enough expertise. They are not prescribed any qualifications as such, whether he is supposed to be a chartered accountant or a company secretary or a cost accountant like that. But what you have to ensure is that person got the expertise in providing the assurance, what's called as, that audit they can undertake. Second thing is there should not be any conflict of interest. So what is the conflict of interest? They have explained that thing in the FAQs itself. So we may go through that. So the second responsibility of the listed entity is there should not be any conflict of interest. Then after that, the way secretarial auditor, what he can do and what he cannot do. Similarly, here also, what is the assurance provider can do, certain activities they can do for the organization. Certain activities they cannot do it because that is going to be a conflict of interest. So whenever we are going to appoint the assurance provider, we need to see that whether any kind of prohibited services, whether they are providing to the organization. If it is so, then obviously you cannot appoint them as an assurance provider because there is a conflict of interest. Certain things, what they can do it as per this FAQ, then obviously they can continue to do those activities and they can also continue, they can be appointed as an assurance provider. Yeah, next.
Yeah, so next question is, can the internal auditor of the listed entity or its group entities can be appointed as an assurance provider? So answer is no, because they are already internal parties, so they cannot get appointed to provide the assurance. Then the statutory auditor of the listed companies can be appointed as an assurance provider. Answer is yes, because they are equivalent to as well as doing the audit of the company, so they are eligible to do the assurance also.
Though they have not mentioned as such that whether secretarial auditor can be appointed as an assurance provider, as such it is not there. But when the statutory auditor can be appointed as an assurance provider, certainly, according to me, my personal view is that even the secretarial auditor can also be appointed as an assurance provider because there is no conflict of interest there.
Yes.
Correct. So I was about to ask that question whether secretarial auditor also is prescribed, but as Sudhakar ji said that okay, it could be implied, but again we have to see the capability set.
Correct.
Because at the end of the day, they have to be capable to do that audit, and they should be adding value to the whole process.
See, in fact, we have to see this also. Okay, number one, the expertise. Number two, the team size also. Suppose, say, for example, like Adani group of companies, there's such a big conglomerate it is. So it is the responsibility of the listed, that Puneet to take care of that. The assurance provider, whether he got that kind of a team also, so that they will be able to provide that assurance. Okay, that also is equally important. So whenever we are going to appoint, we have to see the size of our company and the size of, just like an auditor, the way you are appointing a statutory auditor, same is the case here also.
Yes.
Because the volume of the audit will be much more in case of assurance provider, and the time limit is also there. That's why it is very essential that for the organization to ensure that the person not only got the expertise, but he also got the bandwidth also.
Yes. So about value chain partners, we have already discussed. What are value chain partners and what is the applicability in terms of disclosure and the assurance? So yeah, that's it. So we may just take up some questions from the chat box.
Only one question is there, Dolly, that I have already taken up. Value chain partners, we already clarified that KPIs like number of trading houses, what is the significance from investors' perspective? I couldn't understand the question, in fact.
We need
I think
some
ISF they have clarified about trading houses. If I read it, earlier there was a confusion as to what is trading house. Now in the IFSF note which has come on BRSR, they have clarified what is trading house. So I think from there we can see whether it is relevance or not, because earlier it was not making relevance without the definition.
Mhm.
I'm trying to locate if I can.
So the question is regarding what is the importance from the investor's perspective.
That's what I'm saying, that earlier it was not making much of sense because a lot of people who were not using the services of trading house, that information either was nil or was just kind of provided any random number. So, but with a specific definition, I'm just trying to locate if I'm not able to lay my hand on the relevant question.
Anyway, that ISF draft guidance note,
Yes.
they may go through that thing.
It's there. I read it. It's
Yeah.
there in that.
The only thing, before we conclude, I would like to say is that though it is for certain listed entities, it is voluntary as on date, which is not mandatory. But considering the importance of the what's called BRSR and BRSR core, it is a matter of time when it is becoming mandatory for all the listed entities, more or less. So it is better to start the practice right now onwards, so that by the time it becomes mandatory for your respective organizations, you will be definitely prepared, yourself. Several times it happens that today it is not mandatory for me, why I have to bother for that? That kind of an attitude, we should not have it. As I told in the beginning itself, that the future is definitely there in the ESG only. This is a niche area. And fortunately or unfortunately, according to me, it is fortunately the compliance officer is responsible for this. So it is a new avenue for the, all the professionals. So let us take this particular thing as an opportunity and as well as responsibility also, and then gear up for that. Yeah.
So
Please,
I
any
see
concluding remarks from
basically,
your side?
Sudhakar, I believe that in next 5-10 years, these two roles have to become one.
Correct.
The ESG professional and company secretary role have to become one. Because there is a huge overlap, and I think as a professional, we are very well geared to take up that role. Today, if we are allowing somebody else to step into that role, we are doing injustice to ourselves. So I think going forward, this role will become one. So better that we take steps now, gear ourselves, and step into that shoe as early as possible before any third party come in.
See, because I remember, Puneet, in fact, about two decades before, approximately, if I'm not wrong, there used to be a question that company secretary and the governance professional,
Yes.
they used to have two separate things. Governance is separate, secretarial thing is separate.
Correct.
Institute used to be on the top of the roof. They used to say that this company secretary and governance professional should be the same.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it happened now, especially after the SEBI listing regulations of 2015. Company secretary has become the governance professional, more or less. And as you rightly said, it is going to be a matter of another 5-10 years. These two professions, also to get merged into one only, and the compliance officer, the company secretary is the governance professional and also going to be the ESG professional.
ESG professional.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Dolly, we can conclude with this. You might be.
Yeah, okay. So, yes, I think we have answered all the questions. There are no further questions. There was one question from Priyank Sharma for the applicability of BRSR Assurance. I have answered that on the chat box, and yeah, there are no further questions. So we can conclude this webinar.
Thanks
So,
very much, Puneet, in fact, for sparing your time. And at the same point of time, I learned a lot today, in fact. And in whenever opportunity is there, again, for the ESG webinars, we will invite you and kindly take the time. We will consult you in beforehand. Whenever it is suitable to you, we will make an invite to you so that you can share some of your further experiences with us at that point of time. Thanks very much once again.
I think thanks is due from my side for inviting me to this August webinar. Okay, it was so I had to gather a lot of thoughts before putting forth. Okay, but yeah, it was a good opportunity. I think people would take away something from it.
Correct.
And then it's whatever I have said is all practical. Okay, it's
Absolutely, absolutely. Very useful, very useful.
practical, and it is where we have made mistakes. I'm just sharing where you should not make mistake. Okay, that's the bottom line. So we have to leverage, as we started with the same thought, that okay, unless we share our learnings, we have to kind of ensure that okay, people don't fall into the same trap again. Okay.
As you rightly said, to have learnings, you don't need to commit mistakes. From others' mistakes also we can learn.
We can learn. So
True.
that's how we have learned, and that's how I think going forward people should learn.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
absolutely.
thanks, Dolly. Thanks, Atul Bhai.
Yeah, thanks, Puneet Bhai. Sorry, I just got into some other meeting also. Nowadays, a lot of IPOs are coming.
Yeah.
So we all, are getting into it. So this hotel Leela was also done by us anyway. So thank you once again, Puneet Bhai, part of this webinar. We'll bother you now since we know you that you are good in sharing the knowledge.
I always love this
Never-
opportunities. So
Thank you, sir.
more than happy to be participating anytime you say.
So
Yeah,
thank you,
Thank you,
Dolly.
thank you,
Thank you,
everybody.
Sudhakar ji. Yeah.
Thank you for the people online.
yeah. Thank you to
Yeah,
all
Dolly.
the panelists, for giving your valuable insights, and Puneet sir, especially to you, because you are working with a huge corporate and giving your experience and the.
Valuable times. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bye. Bye.